Mate, did we watch a thing this week?
Yeah, we did. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here again at We Watched a Thing. How are you, Billy?
I'm not too bad. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm well. My mouth's a little dry.
Oh, really?
I just bought this thing of mixed nuts, and now I've got dry mouth.
You're just talking about food to make me jealous?
Yes.
Because I have very, very wet mouth because I've only been eating juice.
Not even eating it, really?
Not even eating. No, you don't really eat juice. Yeah, I've been on a juice cleanse, and I'm, day 4 today? So
cleanse. Famously not a thing.
Don't believe he cleanses. Not at all. I just need, but if I'm drinking juice, I'm not hoofing down a Big Mac, which is our pre-show tradition.
Not for both of us, though, is it?
My pre-show tradition is to hoof down a Big Mac. Yeah. But if I'm drinking juice, I'm not doing that. So that's healthy.
Well, I can confirm that mixed nuts will not become a pre-show tradition because I've got dry mouth. That's unhelpful.
I mean, dry mouth is one of the things that you really don't want when you're talking for a long time.
Yeah. I regret my decision. Speaking of talking about something,
yes.
What are we here to talk about?
Well, what did we watch this week?
We watched, God knows what this thing's called. The first time I heard about this film, it was just called Soldado. Then it was called Sicario, Day of the Soldado. Yep. I've seen Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. I've seen just Day of the Soldado. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think different regions have. I'm pretty sure in the UK it's still Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. I think in the States it might just be. Here it's Sicario, Day of the Soldado.
Can we just call it Soldado?
Let's just call it Soldado.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Right. Here We Watched a Thing, it's just Soldado.
Yeah. So fun fact, did you know that Soldado is a Spanish word that means soldier?
Yeah, I did know that.
I didn't. And what do you think Sicario means, mate?
It means hitman.
It means hitman. I found all this out this morning. I think I told you I finally watched Sicario this week.
Yeah. I
did tell you because I was live, like tweeting it to you, basically. Yeah, for the first time about 2 hours before I saw Sicario 2, I finally said, you know what? I'm going to watch this.
It was the right thing to do.
It was bloody good.
It's a fantastic movie.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was my favourite film of 2015.
I can definitely see that.
Shocked and appalled that Emily Blunt didn't get an Oscar nomination for it. I thought she was stunningly good. Denis Villeneuve is awesome.
Yeah.
Tells a story like a boss.
Yes.
Roger Deakins cinematography,
yes.
Not a shock. Amazing.
Johan Johansson's score. So, let's talk about Soldado, though.
But we're not talking about Sicario.
So, Soldado is directed by Stefano Sollima.
If that is his real name.
Who obviously did not do the first one. But it's written by Taylor Sheridan, who did pen the first one. Stars Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, and Jeffrey Donovan returning in their roles from the previous film. Along with them, we've got Isabela Moner, Manuel Garcia-Rulfo, and Catherine Keener joining the cast. The plot follows the drug war at the U.S. Mexico border as it has escalated to the point where the cartels have begun transporting terrorists, forcing the United States government to team up with hitman Alejandro Gillick.
Josh Brolin, clearly pretty fresh from the gym for Deadpool 2.
Yeah, he's a hulking dude.
Ripped in this film.
And he's great in this film.
He's really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can say nothing else of Soldado, the acting is of a similar caliber to the first one. Brolin and Del Toro both smash it in this movie.
You know, as we were talking about what Sicario and Soldado mean, if you were to just do it in English, the movie would be called Hitman, Day of the Soldier. That's pretty dumb.
That is a dull title.
It's a lot better in Spanish, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
So I remember when I first heard that they were making a sequel to Sicario, my first thing was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Why?
Hang on. No, Emily Blunt's character her arc is done.
Yes.
And then they said, okay, so they're doing a sequel, Emily Blunt's not going to be there. And my first reaction was, why would you want this without Emily Blunt?
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, well, actually, if you're going to do it, then moving on from Emily Blunt's character actually makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So I was on board with that call.
I do feel, though, as far as like unnecessary sequels and franchises and stuff, I never would have thought a sequel to this would have happened unless it had a real purpose to. And sadly, I'm not sure that this did happen with a real purpose.
I felt like it almost did. The first kind of, let's say, half-hour-ish of the film, plot-wise, where they're talking about turning the cartels on one another and blah, blah, it's like, okay, this could be cool.
Yeah.
I can see this working as a story. And they start doing that, and I was quite into that. And then where the film goes after about 45 minutes, for me, way less interesting.
It's funny. See, for me, I actually enjoyed that back 45 minutes more, but it definitely is. It's like a real shift there. It's almost like two separate movies in some ways. For me, I'm just going to get this out front. I don't think this is a great movie. I think this is a good movie, but I think it's a fairly generic action thriller. It's a lot more surface level and a lot less nuanced than the first Sicario. And I think that's fine. It's a fine movie, but to me, it's like, it just didn't need to happen.
Yeah, we're going to be pretty much on the same page, I think, for this film.
Yeah, cool.
Because this, like you said, it's not a bad film.
It's not a bad movie. It's perfectly enjoyable viewing.
It suffers in comparison to the first one, for sure. And even if the original creative group of people were back from the first one making this film, it still wouldn't be as good as Sicario.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think this movie shows you, it answers the age-old question of what happens to a movie franchise when it simultaneously loses Denis Villeneuve, Roger Deakins, Johan Johansson, and Emily Blunt. And the people who fill in for these people do a pretty respectable job. The score is surprisingly good. It's not as good as the original, but it's surprisingly there. The cinematography, not as good as the original, but better than most generic action thrillers.
The cinematographer, Dariusz Wolski, he's done things like The Crow, Dark City, Alien Covenant, and Prometheus, which, say what you will about them, I think they're really good-looking films.
Yeah.
But the problem is that for me, it feels to me like Dariusz Wolski and other people involved are working on the brief of trying to recreate the original. There's specific shots and lighting things in this film that are direct callbacks from Sicario, like when Alejandro is outside at that shanty thing at dusk.
Yep.
And it's a real kind of nod to that awesome dusk shot of the soldiers taking off in Sicario. And it's a good shot on its own, but really it just makes me think about the fact that you're trying really hard to be something that you're not quite.
That's exactly the way I felt. It's perfectly, the direction, it's really quite solid. The cinematography, really, really nice looking film, but it's not Sicario. And I agree with you. I think I wouldn't have so much of a problem with that if it didn't feel like that's what it was trying to do.
Even like early on, we've got the use of night vision again, as Sicario did, and here it's just not as good.
Yeah. And for me, even the surprising part is that the one member of the creative team we have kept is Taylor Sheridan. And yet I feel like the writing in this film is probably the weakest component.
I was actually kind of, when I saw Soldado, I hadn't checked whether Sheridan had come back to write it. And after watching it, I was like, I don't reckon they even got Sheridan back. And then I was actually surprised when it turned out that it was him, because it doesn't, even though they're really different films in a lot of ways, like Hell or High Water, when I checked, I remember seeing that film going, oh, who wrote that? And realized it was the same guy that wrote Sicario. And he was like, okay, yeah, you can, there is that
cohesiveness.
Yeah. And, the Western noir kind of thing about which is just absent from this movie.
It is. This really does become it's an action movie, essentially. You could see this movie with, for example, Schwarzenegger in the Brolin role. Like, this, to me, doesn't even feel related to Sicario. And I feel like you miss a lot by losing the Emily Blunt character. And yeah, I know that obviously her arc is done and it wouldn't have made sense to bring her back. But the beauty of that is that Sicario at times is a kind of, I don't know what the word is, it's not a mindfuck film. But there are times where you're sitting there going, hang on, why is this happening? What's happening here? And that's okay.
Which is great, because that's what's happening to Emily Blunt's character as well.
Exactly. So you can see it through her eyes and go, okay, she's confused with me. But with this, it really just becomes badass guys doing badass things, and there's no real nuance around that.
Something I think is kind of was always going to be a struggle for this film, is that in Sicario you had Emily Blunt as not only your protagonist, but she was your moral compass as well.
Yes.
Whereas both Alejandro and what's Brolin's character name?
Matt.
Those two characters, they're great characters in Sicario. And one of the things that's great about them is that they're a bit loose.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not straight up heroes.
Yes.
Brolin's character, his beliefs of, getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Totally questionable, which was the exact, it's completely right for the character.
Yeah.
But it's totally questionable. But it makes him not someone you necessarily root for. Alejandro fantastic character in Sicario. So interesting. And, he's quite mysterious and stuff. So when you make him more of the main character, you both lose a bit of that and care less, oddly.
Yeah.
Even though he's carrying the story more.
They've given him a lot of backstory in this movie.
Which I loved. I love how little, you get these nuggets in Sicario of something that's happened to this guy to make him this way. And I loved that it wasn't explained in Sicario. And the more you get of it, the less interesting it is.
Yeah. And we do, to some extent, get an Emily Blunt type character in our young girl who they have abducted. How did you like her?
I think she's good. In general, in films where you plug a child in, it so rarely works.
Yeah. I think this works pretty well, though. If you compare this to, say, Jurassic World Fallen franchise, this is better.
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. I actually quite liked her. I thought she was... maybe it's just her as an actress, but she was very likable, and I was on board with that. And I didn't mind where the story went.
It might be because, where I was thinking the story was going to go and what I still think would have been more interesting had nothing to do with that character.
Yeah.
Maybe just you're a dad, I'm not. Yeah. Maybe you're just more likely to care about a kid in a film, whereas I'm just fuck him right off.
That's true. That could be a possibility.
I doubt it. It's probably just a nicer person than me.
Not hard, though, is it?
I like that we continue the mini renaissance of Matthew Modine in this film.
Yes. He's getting around.
Yep. I liked him. I thought he was good. I liked everything. Again, at the beginning of this film, all that stuff with the government people being fucking cold-blooded felt both realistic and I thought was executed well.
So in Sicario as well, the first one, we do have this B-plot with this police officer and his family. And that really, really worked in Sicario for me. And I think what made it work is that it's so brief and there's not a lot of it, and there's a lot of intrigue around it. In this film, we get this B story, which is kind of like a B+ story about this kid who lives on the border, and he's being worked into the cartel and to help bring people across and whatnot. And I did not care for that at all. And it took up such a large chunk of the film. How did you feel about that?
I think probably pretty similarly to you. I don't think it's bad, the story itself, and that kid is good. And I like his character more than the girl character, because that girl character to me feels so much like one of those plug-in children from Aliens, or just pick a movie with a plug-in children to try and make you care more.
Yeah, she's like an NPC in one of those video games, in one of those quests where you have to carry someone with you and take them to safety. And it's they don't talk or anything. Your whole job is just to carry them through the whole level. And
that episode of GoldenEye where you're like, what are you doing, Natalia?
You got to put them down to open doors and stuff. And you're like, fuck this, just walk.
Stop getting stuck behind that door, damn it.
Yeah.
And then you wind up just shooting him, going reset.
Whereas you're saying he felt more like an actual character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But as you said, it's kind of a B+ plot. I think it would have worked better as a B- plot.
Yes, there was too much of it. And there was no intrigue around it because, everything is so heavily foreshadowed, and you see every conversation. We see this kid get inducted into the cartel. We see him bump into them in the car park and then later recognize them. And it was too much.
I'll give him props for the, I think on the page, if you were to read kid recognizes Benicio del Toro, you'd be like, oh, really? But then you think about, and it is just Benicio del Toro being better at his job than most people.
Yeah.
That look that Benicio gives him from the car, which is fucking spine chilling. You're like, okay, yeah, actually that kid would remember that face.
Yeah.
So we get kind of the discount version of the border crossing scene from Sicario.
Yes.
When they're on that dirt road.
And they have the shootout with the cops.
Which is quite good.
Yeah.
The one in Sicario is great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
This one, that is still a good sequence. And it still feels very, it's not, you don't feel like there's just CGI cars flipping and stuff. It's a really grounded scene still.
And what I like about that too is a lot of that is shown from that girl's perspective. So a lot of this is just through windows and through windscreens and shots being fired and stuff, which is quite effective.
Yeah.
And in this dust storm and stuff, you can't see a lot of things, and I liked that.
Yep, I'll tick off on that scene for sure. It is good. And a bunch of cool filmmaking going on there. And in other parts, like when Alejandro chucked the grenade in that car.
That was a cool shot.
It's one shot. You're like, that's a great bit of filmmaking, because you're like, hang on, how did you not just kill people?
Yeah, that was a great shot.
So there is a bunch of the action in this film, which, to be fair, is really well done. It's just that the film in general feels a bit more generic. I still think it's probably above average if you went into this film just expecting an action film, this is above average.
Yes.
Yeah, we keep coming back to this. Where it continuously suffers and is the fact that obviously it's going to get compared to the first one.
See, and that happens when you attach a name to something. And it does make me question, because this could have just been a completely separate movie. You could have replaced these characters. There's not a lot that carries on from these guys from Sicario, and it could have been more of a spiritual successor rather than yes, this is a sequel. Look, and in some ways, I'm happy to have that trade-off, because we do get Brolin and Del Toro, who are phenomenal in this movie. And had we gone with a different universe, I don't know who else could have played these characters, but you wouldn't have had that whole comparison thing in the back of your head. Do you think that you could survive a shot to the head?
I doubt my ability to survive a shot to the head.
Even if it just went through my cheeks, I would be screaming bloody murder. They would shoot me again, for sure.
Yes.
I'm not getting out of that.
I'd die from the pain. It would overcome me.
How did you feel you had to suspend a lot of disbelief for that? Yeah.
Yes.
Especially to just get up, get a car, start driving again.
He was like, again, Benicio is great.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah, like he...
Actually, not as always, because we've all seen Last Jedi.
Not convinced that was Benicio del Toro. But yeah, he is banged up, and he's in a bad way. He crashes the car.
Yeah.
And then has to be like, oh shit, now I've got to keep driving again. But yes, you certainly do have to suspend a bit to go like, oh yeah, Benicio got shot through the face, but he's still all right. And because at first I was like, this is probably credit to the film, I thought he was dead. I was like, yep.
I was sure he was dead.
I was like, yep, they killed him off. That's cold-blooded. And then, part of me, because I love that character, I was like, yeah, he's alive. And there's a part of me that's like...
That really cheapens it. Yeah, that's how I felt too. Let's talk about the ending of the film. Is this opening for Sicario 3?
They were already planning on a third one, is my understanding, that this film was written as part 2 of 3.
Of 3 or of 10? Because I can see this sliding into Fast and the Furious territory.
Well, they're not going to be able to do that and keep Brolin and Del Toro on board, because they've got better things to do with their lives, to be honest, unlike Vin Diesel, who does not. Sicario 4, family. What's...
Familiar.
Familiar, yeah. Sicario 4, familiar. It's coming.
I'd watch that.
I know you would. You'd probably make me watch it too. I would. So I'm pretty sure we're getting another one. Okay. If that will be on the proviso of this one's box office returns, because if it were to completely tank, they'd obviously pull the pin on it. But yeah, pretty sure we're coming back. And it'll be interesting to see does Alejandro blame them? Is he now an adversary, or there is stuff to explore there?
Does he know that Matt was called to hit on him?
Well, hit on him?
I'm not down with my gangster lingo. to whack him off.
It's a government order for Josh Brolin to come and sleaze onto him. Well, no, he wouldn't know that was... Because that Brolin was coming to kill him, because he never got the chance.
He didn't get the chance because they thought he was dead already. Do they still think he's dead?
Probably.
See, there are interesting places to go here with these characters.
And I did like that moment with that other character, like Josh Brolin's kind of number 2.
Yeah.
I liked that stuff with him in the helicopter saying, I'm glad we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Again, there is a bunch of good about this film. It's just good, not great, is the problem.
So obviously Del Toro is our Sicario.
Yep.
Who's our Soldado?
I think Alejandro is still...
You think he's both?
Yeah.
I think it's the kid. I think it's the kid who shoots him.
I think you're overthinking it.
You think they just flick through the Spanish dictionary and were like, Soldado, it's a cool word.
What will number 3 be? I mean, we hear Medellin mentioned in Sicario. Maybe the third one could be him going, all right, fuck you, I actually am going to become this guy, and this is not going to be good for you. Of course, then anyone who's seen Entourage is just thinking about a fictional film.
What do you mean? I haven't seen Entourage.
There's a whole storyline about this film that the main character shoots called Medellin, where he plays Pablo Escobar.
Right.
And it's this complete train wreck of a production. So whether you'd want to hitch yourself to that wagon, I'm not sure. All right, so we're about done on whatever this film's called?
I reckon we're done.
Final rating from you, sir.
I think I'm going with a 6.
I'm also a 6. Yeah. It's a reasonable film. It's not bad.
Yeah. It's definitely worth a watch. Like, of what's out at the moment, go see it for sure.
It's just, if you're a fan of the first one, that's where the letdown comes.
Yeah, just lower your bar.
As Josh Brolin was sent to do.
No, he was sent to raise his bar.
Oh, sorry. Well, no, he was sent to raise Alejandro's bar, wasn't he?
Yeah. Sorry, I'll brush up on my gangster talk for next week.
You do that.
I will. Speaking of next week, what are we getting to?
Next week, I believe we're leaving general belief and probably physics at the door and checking in with The Rock in a skyscraper, in a film called Skyscraper.
I don't think so.
What's it called?
I think next week we're getting to Ant-Man and the Wasp, my friend.
Oh, is that a week ahead of that?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Skyscraper's the week after.
Oh, I'm just so keen.
Me too, actually.
I'm so keen.
I'm really excited for Skyscraper.
Okay, well, I'm not excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No, me neither, not at all. I'm very, very curious to see what happens and how they're going to handle Infinity War. I'm guessing it just has to be separate, or...
Well, my understanding is that this is set before Infinity War.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm not interested
so
at all.
They just don't even... I don't think they have to address it.
Oh,
I think that's the out they've given themselves. I think it's just going to come up at the beginning, 2 weeks before Thanos shows up, and then Thanos shows up with instructions to hit on Ant-Man. Stop it, Josh! You gotta stop. It's not appropriate.
All right, well, now I am looking forward to it again. I hope they've listened.
You didn't know that was going to happen, did you?
All right, so that's next week. And then, I guess Skyscraper the week after?
Skyscraper. Yeah, everyone, you've got all this time now to work yourself up for us talking about what is doubtless going to be a fucking terrible film. Have you seen that shot? Have you seen a trailer for Skyscraper?
I have, yeah.
Where The Rock, who's only got one leg, so he's like shuffling along this crane and then has to jump it. Oh, man. Someone
on Reddit actually
I saw that.
Did like the calculations.
Amazing.
Where he would actually be able to jump to. Yeah, pretty much.
Falls like a stone.
I don't know if you know this, but you really missed what could have been a good pun there.
Oh, what?
You could have said Rock.
What's Dwayne Johnson? This is way more fun than the movie's going to be.
So much more fun. Anyway.
Well, thanks for joining us here at Rockfest. If you want to get in contact with us, Billy's busy. He's in a bit of a fit. But you can hit us up on all them socials at We Watched a Thing. Everyone except Josh Brolin can get in contact with us at We Watched a Thing on all the social things. We Watched a Thing at Gmail. If you particularly love us, you can go to our Patreon page. And thank you very much for joining us.
Catches. Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
Hang on. Denis Villeneuve. How do you say it? Wait, are we done though? Are we ready to?
Yeah, we're done.